Hey guys, it's Drac on Everyday Alchemy, and this video is going to be a little different than all the other cooking videos I've done because I'm going to try and do it all in one segment, so that should be interesting. As you can see right now, I have my pan overheat with a bit of butter in it that I'm melting. I have 3 eggs in a mixing bowl, which I've already kind of whisked together, and I've got some cheese, as well as some salt, and a plate off to the side. And like I said, I'm going to try and do this all in one segment. I'm going to show you how to make the omelet I made in my last video where I made chocolate mousse. I'm doing this because a viewer wanted this video specifically, and I like making these omelets, so that's not a huge deal. This one will have much more cheese in it than the last one did because I'm making it for myself and not the Draculina. I like a lot of cheese. And I'm using sharp cheddar because it works well in omelets, even though it's not my favorite kind of cheese. My favorite kind of cheese is probably feta. I love feta cheese, and it's got a tremendous amount of use. Anyway, this is starting to get pretty hot. I'm going to give it actually another second or two before I add in. I'm waiting for my butter to start bubbling, and I may add in just a little bit more butter, not too much, because I don't have quite enough for the omelet that I want to make yet, I don't think. Like I said, this is a 3-egg omelet, so it shouldn't take too incredibly long to cook, but I should have enough time to add in all the cheese that I want and salt it on both sides. I don't really like pepper a ton, but I do like salt a lot. Alright, I'm adding in my eggs now. And I actually add my salt differently than a lot of people. A lot of people like to shake their salt in with a shaker. I actually like to put my salt in my hand, usually more than I need, and then I like to shake it in gradually with my hand. I feel like it gives me much better control over my salt, and then I can always get rid of the excess pretty easily. I like to salt it on both ends, and I'm going to watch as this cooks and solidifies enough for a flip. And then once it flips, I'll start layering cheese into 1/2, and then I'll fold it over and cook it a little more on both sides. I've got a plate here that'll be ready to go for the plating, as well as my favorite eating utensil, which is a Light My Fire spork. These are great for when I go hiking because they're lightweight and they've got everything. You can see here that they've got a knife, a fork, and a spoon all in one utensil, and it weighs next to nothing because it's made of plastic. It's a very cool utensil and I like it a lot. I use it a lot when I'm eating at home as well, just because it's really easy to have one utensil for everything and then clean it after each meal. I'm kind of testing the edges now with a rubber spatula. It's not anywhere close to being ready, so I'm going to crank up the heat just a little bit to get it to cook a little faster. It's starting to whiten on the bottom, so I do know that it is in fact cooking. I guess as long as I'm waiting on it, I can tell you that this spatula is just a simple rubber spatula that I've been using for omelets forever. It's great for getting up underneath them and flipping them. You just have to be fast so that you don't melt it against the heat of the pan. Starting to get a slightly more solid edge, which is excellent. That's just what I'm looking for. Probably needs another half a minute before it's solid enough on top to be ready for a flip. And I may look like a complete goofball in this video because my flips aren't always perfect. They're generally pretty fair, but making omelets is tricky because of the flip. I'm going to pop this bubble here because I don't want to work around it. I suppose it'll deflate more when I flip it. Dialing back the heat a little bit more because I don't want this omelet to burn. My eggs are definitely cooking nicely. I have the right amount of butter in this to keep it nice and loose, with the exception of the edges, which I'm loosening up with the spatula. Looks like it's about ready to flip. The center is still almost too fluidy, which is why I'm having trouble. You can see there that it wasn't a perfect flip, but I can even that out. That is the base of my omelet. Now I'm going to dial back the heat a good bit. Start adding my cheddar cheese to only half of it. Although it's not an exact art, I'm just trying to get enough cheese melted into this that I'll enjoy it personally, and then I'll add some salt to the other side as well as maybe a little on top. I think that's roughly a cup of cheese, although I'm not sure. And it ought to be enough for an omelet this size. Again, I've got a little bit of salt in my hand, and I'm just going to add that to the other side. You can see that the cheese is melting nicely, which is good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to kind of, and if I rotate this properly, I can show you on the camera. I'm checking the other edge to make sure that it isn't burning. And it's not, so I can continue to let my cheese melt. Now the omelet is going to retain a lot of its heat and continue cooking even after you remove it from the stove or your pan or whatever you're cooking it on. So it's not entirely necessary to melt all the cheese at once, because it'll continue to melt and heat as you go along. I'm going to fold my omelet over. And I've got to be completely honest, that looks pretty perfect. Maybe if I kill my stove light, you can see it better. Yeah, there we go. That's a good look at the omelet. I'm going to kill my stove entirely and plate this for myself. It just barely fits on my plate, but that is how I make my cheese omelets. I hope that the viewer who watched this enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like this video, or if you like my traditional way I do it, where I try and cut down the time by making a lot of little segments. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.